When you think about the amount of talent that the English second tier has been able to produce over the last few years, it's pretty easy to get carried away with a fresh youngster on the scene scoring a few goals, only for them to not quite live up to their Jude Bellingham potential. But Ben Doak is not that. Hi, my name is Ash, and in this video I'm going to be breaking down what's made Ben Doak so good this season and hopefully find out a little bit more about him. Ben Doak is currently on loan at Middlesbrough from Liverpool at the age of 19 and played in 24 out of 29 Championship League games this season, scoring 3 times and assisting 7. Now those numbers are pretty impressive for a 19-year-old, but you could argue that those numbers could be even higher this season if you've watched him. Doak is a superb watch and is arguably one of the most exciting players in the entire division, and certainly at Middlesbrough, perhaps barring Finn Azaz. You see, Michael Carrick's side play some very attractive football, and out on that right wing, Scotsman Ben Doak has been excellent. Player so good, he's had bids of up to £16 million from Ipswich Town and Crystal Palace this January. But much to the relief of Michael Carrick, that has been confirmed Ben Doak is not going anywhere just yet. They could be on for a very fine finish this campaign. Ben Doak was born in Dowry, Scotland in 2005, and at youth level played for Dowry Rovers, Ayr United and Celtic. He made 2 senior appearances for the Scottish Giants before being signed by Liverpool in March of 2022 and quickly signed a pro contract with them later that year at the age of 17. Doak is someone that Liverpool hold in a high regard and believe he eventually has the ability to be a first team player under Arne Slot, with his first appearances catching the eye, getting fans off seats with his dribbling and pace, driving that ball up the pitch. And he made 3 appearances in the Europa League last season. In the summer of 2024 though, Ben Doak was loaned to Middlesbrough in the Championship, which is where our analysis really begins. Now you see, this has been a Middlesbrough side that have arguably had a tricky start to the season. There were some question marks around Emmanuel Latte after he started not so prolific as he was towards the end of the last campaign, and so you could argue that Middlesbrough were playing this great football, creating so many chances, but were quite open at the back and not actually taking those opportunities. But it's the fact that they've been able to consistently make chances that sort of tidied itself up as the season's gone on, and Ben Doak has been critical to that, to the point where they're now contending for the playoff positions. Now whenever I make these kind of videos, I tend to look at the stats that I can find on FBref, and of course there's so much more to the game than just numbers, but these kind of stats really do paint a clear picture of what Ben Doak is doing for Middlesbrough and what he actually offers in game. The first thing I want to highlight about Doak is the kind of players he's being compared to on the site. So these are similar players that Doak is like on the pitch. First off is Tom Fellows of West Brom, who was the focus of my last video, so go check that out if you want to learn a little bit more about him. Next to that is Willie Nonso of Leeds United, Crescenco Somerville now at West Ham, but the one that stands out kind of media-wise is Estavo Willian at Palmeiras. Now he's expected to join Chelsea in the summer of 2025 and has been earmarked as this next Neymar. He might not quite be that good, but it's a great comparison for Doak to be compared to a player of that stature already. All of these players are fast, agile, great dribblers and predominantly wingers. Now his stats is where it gets quite impressive for Doak. He's in the 99th percentile for progressive carries so far this season and the 99th percentile for progressive passes. Second all round for the total amount of progressive carries so far this season in the Championship. Therefore, if you want to get the ball forward, Ben Doak is probably the best player on offer in the second tier of English football. But he's not just progressing the ball from deep areas. Doak is taking the ball into dangerous areas himself, pointed out by the fact that he's in the 94th percentile on FBref for touches in the opposition penalty area. Doak is also creating opportunities very frequently for this Middlesbrough side. When it comes to shot creating actions, which is defined as an action that leads to a shot for your team, Doak is 13th out of all Championship players so far this season for those shot creating actions. He's also the 6th best overall in the league at getting on that ball in the final third, with 612 total touches so far this season. He attempts a lot of take-ons, which is when you take on a defender, trying to get the ball around them. He's 6th in the league for how frequently he attempts those kind of things, and 13th in the league for how successful he is at doing it, and 14th overall for carries into the final third. But he's also really good at making those runs and receiving the ball in the dangerous areas. In fact, this is arguably what he's best at, with 250 progressive passes received so far this campaign, being first place in the Championship this season. That is a very impressive stat and very important for a side like Middlesbrough that want to attack frequently and get that ball forward. They don't need to wait. When they get the ball into the midfield, Doak is already in those dangerous areas, making that run or ready to receive the ball. And when he does receive that pass, he drives the ball into the penalty area, pointed out by the fact that his 80 carries into the opposition penalty box this season is also the most in the division. So he summed up Doak quite well, and in conclusion, he ticks all of those statistical boxes. He's evidently that kind of winger that is best in the division at driving that ball forward and getting it into the penalty area. But if you look at the heat map provided by SofaScore on Ben Doak, he's not the kind of player that's just stuck to the touchline. He's not just bombing up and down it. His heat map kind of indicates that he's actually curving his runs into the box. So he's picking up the ball out wide and driving inside rather than driving outside and getting across from further away. He's actually penetrating that penalty area. But let's see exactly what he's doing with some in-game scenarios. So we're going to start by taking a look at one of Ben Doak's best performances so far this season for Middlesbrough, and that is at home to Hull City in a 3-1 win, in which he got 2 assists, and there are honestly countless of highlights that I've drawn from that game with these in-game screenshots that we're going to use to analyse Ben Doak's movements on, off the ball, and pretty much what he's so good at. Now, he receives the ball just out wide here. This is Ben Doak. He has a couple of options in the middle. Now, on my next slide, he's driving the ball forward into these central areas. He's not just sticking out wide and using all this space, which is arguably a perfectly reasonable thing to do. He's actually taking that ball and driving it inwards towards that space and towards the goal. Pretty smart thing to do. It's not quite unique to Doak, but it's what makes him so deadly as a winger. As you can see, going forward, he has this one-on-one battle with the defender, and this is what he's actually really good at. He can take pretty much any defender on in the league, and especially fullbacks. He kind of has the confidence to get really close to them, really touch tight to them before kind of jinking his shoulder and moving to the right and attacking this space, which is exactly what he does. Once Ben Doak gets past you as a fullback, it's really difficult to keep a track on him, and it's almost quite embarrassing. Whenever I look at the clips of Ben Doak so far this season, the fullback, once they get past him, they're kind of like scrambling along. It doesn't look good for them. It looks brilliant for him, and he drives and attacks this space and does so well in this position. I don't think Middlesbrough score, but he gets into an area where he's so close to the goal that the ball that he delivers in is bound to be dangerous. It could either, deliver for one of his teammates or struck off one of these opposition defenders here. And it's really smart. It's a different kind of cross. We spoke about Tom Fellows in the last video. Those ball-ins are also very, very dangerous, but this is a different kind of run that Doak is making. He's getting much closer to the goal and arguably being a little bit more dangerous. Another example from the same game, Ben Doak just out wide here. He has an option in Finazaz just in here that he could quite easily just play in. And I mean, look how much space he has there. These screenshots, though, they arguably don't really do the justice that the momentum of the scenario kind of deserves. If you get what I mean, if we take it a little bit further forward, he's actually able to push this ball into space down this right-hand side. And as I said, he has that confidence too. The fullback's already taken out the game. There's a centre-back actually tracking him in this situation, which kind of says everything. And he has that knowledge here to just drive into that space and do exactly what he did in the first scenario. Get really, really tight to that near post to get that ball into his teammate. They almost score from here. Really, really close, but another brilliant opportunity created by Doak. They're a bit of a different scenario now. Doak isn't as wide as what we've had him in the other scenario. He's actually kind of inside. And as we progress this forward, once again, gets touch tight with that defender, has that confidence to do so. In fact, so tight that he almost creates one of these embarrassing scenarios here. And this actual example is kind of highlighting something else about his game. In the last two, we've seen him just drive out wide, flick to his right and get that ball across the face of goal. But here he shows us something a little bit different. Instead, he actually steps inside, spots the run here of Conway, I believe that is, tucks inside and plays quite a nice pass just inside. That finds Conway, and I'm pretty sure, Middlesbrough actually do score from this angle. I'm pretty sure, they do. But just to show that Doak isn't just this one-dimensional kind of winger. He is very talented at those last two scenarios, but can also cut inside here as well. In this next example, Doak actually started with the ball just around here, and he drives the ball forward around the fullback, and quite similar to those runs that he was making earlier on the ball. He goes a little bit closer. This time, you're kind of expecting him to do that same kind of jink of the shoulder again, take it towards that near post to the byline and get that ball across the face of goal, but he actually has the awareness here to spot the shout from Finazaz and pull a really nice pass back into the space. Ignore the squiggles. Finazaz then scores for Middlesbrough, but it's a lovely bit of intelligence there from Ben Doak to not just do the same thing every single time. Instead, he plays it inside and they score. Doak is now away at QPR for Middlesbrough. They won 4-1 in this game. Really nice control to get this ball down here from quite a high angle. I think it was sprayed over to him, and this time he jinks inside past his man taking it into this area of space here. In this moment, he kind of spots the run of Conway and is kind of eyeing up his options, but he stays composed on the ball. He kind of just has that aura about him. He has that bit of time to just kind of decide and wait and see what he's going to do whilst actually holding on to possession. Obviously, he has the option to provide the pass that overlaps, but instead he takes it inside onto actually his weaker foot and play a pass inside, which is again that kind of unfamiliar move. I think that's almost a word that I'm stumbling across whilst looking at these examples, is that he's not predictable in any way. He kind of has that sense about him that he could go either one of those directions. Next highlight, Doak, obviously out wide. We're expecting him to make that curved run into the box, and he does just that. Gets really tight to his opposition defender, jink of the shoulder, and he's away from him. This is one of those embarrassing moments. They're kind of stumbling along, trying to hold on to Doak, but he's too fast to get away from them. Gets to the byline and plays a ball into the danger area, from which Middlesbrough score. His trademark move, but he's realised what he's good at. Why not do it? But he also has that ability to use either foot, and in this sense, in an actual deadly scenario. Middlesbrough on the counter-attack against West Brom, a really big game for them against the promotion contending rival. That's Emmanuel Laf on the ball. He's got Bergzor just inside of him, but it's Ben Doak just inside here. I don't know if you can spot him, that's making that run into heaps of space. Quite poor defending from West Brom, but they are on the counter in all fairness to them. But it's Doak that takes up that position and receives the ball on the edge of the area. Momentum's kind of gone away from his favour. Doesn't really look like, it looked like he was about to drive into that space, but he's actually held the ball on the edge of the box. Now, in the scenario, he might lose composure. He hasn't quite got that stride towards goal as he once got, and that one-on-one with the goalkeeper. Instead, now he's one-on-one with that defender. But as we know, he's really good at sorting that kind of problem out. And this time, jinks inside, uses his left foot this time, which we haven't really seen him do much of in these scenarios, and bends it into the top left corner. And I know that was quite a sensational curve line I just drew there, but to be honest, I give all the plaudits to Ben Doak in that scenario. A sensational goal. That is the end of my analysis of Ben Doak on loan at Middlesbrough from Liverpool in the Championship this season. If you have enjoyed this video, please feel free to like or subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you think of the player, and I'll see you next time.